In this video, I'm going to be going over the differences between a Latitude keyboard, a latest Latitude keyboard, and pretty much the latest ThinkPad keyboard here. And there's some notable differences between them. That's why I am going to go over them right now, since they're not super obvious at all times, but they're obvious once I show you. So here you can see we have keyboard checker. You can see whenever I hit the space bar, it'll go gray. So one thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to very gently zoom in so you can see this. I'll very gently push. Okay. You can see that depressed, we're still green. So now, if I push harder, it registers. Let go. Yep, there you go. You can see this is not actuating at all. And I can press the button on and off. So if I just hold it down lightly, you can see the button will appear down to be pressed. And that's like that for almost every key on the keyboard. You can see I'm holding C down. I'll loosen up. You see it turns off. I'll let go and I'll push it down gently and it doesn't register. But if I push harder, it registers. So if you're a light typer, that might be kind of frustrating for you. So it's a good reason to avoid Latitudes in that case. Because what I've noticed is I'll miss like spacebar presses because sometimes you don't press the spacebar all that hard and it just won't register. It's hard to reproduce on video, of course, because you're paying attention, but let's move on to the ThinkPad. So here's a T480, pretty simple. Press the spacebar down, and the second you push it down, it registers. Very easy. We'll just push, you can see, down, down, like that's as light as I can push it down, and you'll see whenever I do that it registers pretty much every time. I can get it into that state like on the Latitude where it does that, but it's much harder. Like I have a hard time pressing the spacebar down, like I'll push on this side even. I have a hard time getting it into that like not registering state on the down press. But I can get it in that if I loosen up, which is to be expected. These aren't mechanical switches, and even mechanical switches will do that, but that's part of the issue here with the Latitude is just the keyboard's not particularly responsive on down presses, which is not great. The switch seems to actuate way higher than it should, or something like that. I'm not a keyboard fanatic, so I don't really know what you would call that necessarily, but these here, you'll see the click buttons. Let me fire up a mouse tester. So you can see, similar premise, you press a button, button lights up. You can see on this Latitude here, if I very carefully show you this, I can push down on this very gently. If I yep, there you go. Pushing it very gently, you can see it's not registering. Push harder, registers. So same issue here as on the keys. The switch is, like the physical part of the switch is not close to the actual point where it registers the press, so you get weird, squishy responses, which is not great. I believe it's the same for the middle. Can't test that on this specific tool with my current configuration, but you can see that the same is true for the right side here. I'll just show you that. And it's pushed down, and you can see it didn't light up. I'll just do that one more time. I'll push harder. Yep, there you go. And as you can see, again, we'll just do it on the lovely ThinkPad over here. Whoops, that was on the reload button. Click, 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 click. And click, click. Let's see if I can even get it to happen pressing lightly. Nope. If I press very lightly on the corner here, it doesn't register. Let's try the middle. Yeah, you can get it to happen. Yep. So that is a problem on those keys in the ThinkPad, but it's also the problem over here, and it's a little bit worse actually, because it's much harder to, because I'm just pressing normally right now. Like how I'd click, and it's not registering at all. I gotta push harder than that. I've gotta like, yeah, this is like, yeah, here we go. This is me pressing. Like you can, that's not great. And then you can look over here. I'll use about the same amount of pressure, and yep, sure enough, it's clicking easily. So I don't know what the deal is. I mean, these buttons are quite hard to press for some reason. I'm not sure if that's to prevent like palm presses on them. Whatever Dell's justification is for that. It's unfortunate that the keyboard is as unreliable as it is, but yeah, ThinkPad's keyboard is still kind of king here, just purely due to actuation issues. The Lenovo keyboard does kind of still mess up keystrokes a bit. I'll just give this a test here. Let me zoom in. Yep. So that was pressing these 4 keys, ASDF. You press them all at the same time, and you get that classic FTSA ThinkPad behavior. And we'll go over here, and we'll do the same thing on the Latitude keyboard. And we get very different output. It's much less consistent. It's certainly not backwards. It's kind of scattered, and that's just how. That's just due to how the different companies pull the keyboard for key presses. I've also noted that the Latitude is much more responsive for like gaming if you want to do that. There's way less ghosting issues when you press keys at the same time. I just noticed in my personal experience that gaming on the ThinkPads was a little bit more difficult for whatever reason. Not sure if it's key rollover or what the deal is, but yeah, it just doesn't really behave the way I expect it to, you know. But yeah, that's all the video is. Just a quick rundown on these 2 machines and their keyboards. This is the Latitude 5401, and this is a ThinkPad T480.